loves, and thank you for joining me. It's Kirsten and we're at the start of another cozy new releases vlog. I am so excited. You do not understand. The next 3 months are so chock-a-block full of cozy new releases. I am genuinely so excited for them. But okay, this is for releases in January. Well, 2 of them are. One is at the very start of February. I did contemplate a couple of others that were coming available in January, but some of them were really hard for me to get hold of. So decided to do one from the start of February, which is fine for when this video comes out at like the middle of February. So yeah, oh my god, I'm so excited. I have one of the books in my hands ready. I wasn't planning to start this video till next week, but then I got the call from my local bookshop saying, hey, we've got the book available, and I was like, I am so excited to start this book. I have a current read that I should be focusing on, which is my reread of Goblin Emperor for the Discord book club, and I'm going to read more. I'm going to read more of that book before I allow myself to start reading this book, but I am so excited. I just want to read this right now. And that's the Baby Dragon Cafe. This is by A.T. Koresh. I am so excited for this. This, I mean, just adorable. Look at it. I honestly don't even know what this is about. I just saw the cover of this and knew I had to read it for this video. It is a cover by, I'm so excited. So this came out on the 15th of January. I'm so excited. Shall we read the synopsis together? I've not even looked at it. Welcome to the cutest and most complicated cafe in town. When Saphira opens her cafe for customers with pet baby dragons, she isn't expecting it to be quite so hard to keep the fires burning. But her young dragon patrons keep incinerating the furniture, which means selling coffee isn't covering her cost. Local heartthrob Aiden is a gardener, though his disobedient baby dragon is a major distraction from his beloved plants. However, Saphira's cafe gives him an idea. He'll ask Saphira to train his dragon and pay her enough to keep the cafe afloat. They know they're the answer to each other's problems, but happy-go-lucky Saphira and gorgeous but grumpy Aiden couldn't be more different. Can they find a way to work together and maybe even ignite some fire of their own? The romance, honestly, it just kind of reminds me a little bit like Pumpkin Spiced Cafe and that series by Laurie Gilmore. I'm so happy with this. Like, I know I love a good cute romance. Like, that is something I've learned about myself. I know I love a good cafe moment in a book, and the fact that there's baby dragons, like, oh, I'm so excited. Genuinely so excited to read this book, like, and I had to own it. I had to. Normally I'd be like, something like this, a romance type book, just do it on Kindle, because I'm probably not going to want to reread it loads, but this cover, I had to. So yeah, so that is the first book I'm going to be reading. Probably going to be starting it this evening when I've read everything I need to read for my weekly reading vlog and just kind of done some other bits. I've still got like a video to edit and things, so eventually this evening I plan on curling up with this book and I cannot wait. I am so excited. But we do have 2 other books, as I mentioned. One of them is a book I'm really intrigued by. It's a book I'm probably thinking to get on Kindle, but it might be one that I end up purchasing a copy of just because I'm intrigued by it. It looks really good, and that is Watermoon. This is by Samantha Soto Yambao, I think is how it's pronounced. I apologize if I'm getting that wrong. Romantic, captivating fantasy novel that takes you on a magical and healing adventure. This is another book that I looked up, thought the cover looked gorgeous, and didn't really do any more research. So let me read the synopsis. Okay, so this one says, on a back street in Tokyo lies a pawn shop, but not everyone can find it. Most will see only a cozy ramen restaurant, and just the chosen ones, the ones who are lost, will find a place to pawn their life choices and deepest regrets. Hannah wakes on her first morning as the pawn shop's new owner to find it ransacked, the shop's most precious acquisition stolen, and her father missing. Into the shop stumbles a charming stranger quite unlike other customers, for he offers help instead of seeking it. Together they must journey through a mystical world to find Hannah's father and the stolen choice. Through rain puddles, hitching rides on paper cranes, across bridges between midnight and morning, through a night market in the clouds. But as they get closer to the truth, Hannah must reveal a secret of her own and risk making a choice she will never be able to take back. It sounds really cute and cozy. The last book comes out on the 5th of February, The Stormborn Vine by Tilly Wallace. Again, this cover looks absolutely gorgeous. We've got dragons on the cover. I'm very intrigued. In a corner of rural England, Fern Oakby makes a living through her knowledge of botany. Can you see why I'm interested? Botany, like, come on, that sounds amazing. We have an unusual case erupts during a storm when a Boston ivy turns monstrous and carnivorous. However, the solution solution is not as simple as hacking down the exceedingly rare and hungry plant. The storm also gave life to an origami dragon. It's basically like the first two books combined at this rate, and bound it to the vine. When a lonely woman pleads with Fern to save the tiny dragon, she is forced to confront a profound question: what defines the value of life? In a world where ancient magic lingers, every life, no matter how small or strange, holds immeasurable worth. As Fern races against time to unravel dark secrets at the estate, the vine continues to grow. She must find a way to destroy it before it spreads or snatches more lives, nor, as she discovers, is the little dragon the only life in need of saving. Oh, it sounds so good and so cute, but it looks like it's only available as a Kindle edition. I'm really looking forward to this one. I think it just sounds absolutely wonderful. It does sound like a bit of a mix between the Baby Dragon Cafe and then Watermoon because of the origami dragon. Like, it just, it sounds so cute. So I'm very much looking forward to getting that book and reading that. That'll be the start of February. For now, we are going to be starting off with the Baby Dragon Cafe, but can you see what I mean by 3 amazing cozy new releases? And in February there are still 4 other books for me to choose between to read in February for the cozy new releases. But anyway, we're at the start of this cozy new releases vlog. I hope you're excited for it. Let me know if you've heard of any of these books, if you're going to pick up any of these books, and let's get straight into the content. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. So excited for the different books. I think they're going to be amazing. Fingers crossed these do really well, because the last cozy releases vlog, that was a mess. That was such a mess. So hopefully this can get back on track, because I feel like the last couple we've had books that we've DNF'd and things like this. So I'm really hoping these 3 books, I like all of them. That's what we're hoping for. It's been a few days and I'm kind of disappointed to say that I think I'm going to be DNFing the Baby Dragon Cafe. It's one of those things where every single time I go to pick this book up, I will sit and read it for about 20 to 30 pages and then put it down because it's annoying me. Which, it's really, like, it's so disappointing because I was so excited to read this book. I love the idea of the cover of this and everything. And it's just unfortunate that it's just not really working. So I kind of gave up at about page 124. I'm not sure what chapter I'm in the middle of. Chapter 10. I then had a flick through the rest of the pages and nothing was really intriguing me about this. So the whole thing of it being like for fans of Legends and Lattes, that's very much just because it's a cozy book. It's not actually like that. I think, okay, you've got a coffee shop setting, but that's about it. I wouldn't say there's anything else I would connect to with that. If anything, it's actually closer to the Dream Harbour series by Laurie Gilmore. I would say it's very similar. Very similar, except this one feels more juvenile. In this one, the Baby Dragon Cafe, we are in a place called Starshine Valley where there are dragons, baby dragons, and that's what they're known for. In this world, there's like different villages and towns and they specialise with different animals. You've got griffins, chimeras, phoenixes, etc. But this one is focused on dragons. That's what Starshine Valley is known for. Or is it Starlight Valley? Something like that. And we're following Saphira and she is opening up this cafe that she's using the money left over from her gran to open up this cafe and to have it so that baby dragons can have this place to come as well, which obviously has its own little problems and things with it all. She then gets caught up with helping this guy out with training this baby dragon that he's never wanted, but it's a whole situation about why he's got it in the first place and everything. And so she's like, okay, sure, I'll help train Sparky. But the language is just really juvenile, and don't get me wrong, Saphira is 25 years old, but like there'll be things where they're like joking around and stuff and she'll be like, oh, I'm so old and all of this, and I'm like, go, you're 25, like come on now, that's a bit much. Or there'll be things like constantly calling the dragons Dragos, which, okay, I get it, it's like a play on words from doggos, but like, why is that necessary? It's a dragon, it's a fire-breathing dragon, and yet the way they're described is like they're a mix between a baby and a puppy, and it's just weird, and I'm just like, I don't know if I can get, it's like, I would prefer if they were like, how to train your dragons, sure, no problem. But it's more babyish than that, and I'm just like, what? So I don't know, it's just very juvenile, and I was talking to my partner about it yesterday, like, oh, I'm not sure if I want to continue, and he was like, okay, well then tell me what you're not liking about it, and then I was getting more and more annoyed, and I was like, yeah, okay, I need to stop reading this. It is kind of similar, because obviously we've got Dream Harbour, we've got everyone in this cute little village in Dream Harbour with this series by Laurie Gilmore. In the first one, you're actually following Pumpkin Spice Cafe, so you know, they're there. It's just you don't have the dragons. There's little bits of like magic here and there. It's very small, very much in the background, but the characters at least feel a bit more mature rather than feeling really young, like they should be teenagers in here, which is something that really annoys me. I don't mind following a book about teenagers. That doesn't bother me, and they're acting like teenagers. What annoys me is when we're meant to be following adults that act like they've never grown up from school, and that annoys me. I know it's a me thing. I know it's a me thing. I know it probably doesn't bother a lot of people, but it's also why I couldn't get on with The Phoenix Keeper, because again, the premise of that was brilliant. I loved the idea of it. I loved the world. Could not get past the juvenile conversations and all of this, and I'm like, you're meant to be adults, but you're acting like you're still at school. Kind of similar with this. It's kind of frustrating. I really wanted to like it. I kept giving it another try, and I just can't get past the writing in this one, which is so unfortunate. There are more books coming out in this series. We've got in 2026, you've got the Baby Dragon Bookshop. This year, a bit later on, you've got the Baby Dragon Bakery. So you can see it's going to be a series like this one by Laurie Gilmore, where you have it around a different couple each time, around a different place. And I mean, like, the first book's both about cafes. We're then going to have a bookshop for the third one. The second one was about a bookshop. Like, they should have honestly put, if you like the Dream Harbour series by Laurie Gilmore, give this one a try. And that's the way it should have been, not Legends and Lattes. There's just nothing that didn't. No. One thing I will say is there is more spice in the Laurie Gilmore books than there is in this. And again, I only did a small flick through, but I mean, there's a little bit, but it kind of goes more fade to black. There's a little bit of stuff on page, but it's like very small compared to this. So yeah, I don't know. It's just, I would say if you like the Dream Harbour series, maybe give the Baby Dragon Cafe a try. But my problem is I don't mind younger books if they are meant to be young adult books. I do not like adult books that read like they should be young adult books. That kind of annoys me, and it is just a personal thing, but I know I'm just going to keep getting annoyed when I'm reading it, so I'm unfortunately going to put this down. I'm so disappointed because I was so excited about this book. I really thought it was going to be fun. Like, did I know that this was going to be like a generic thing, a bit like the Dream Harbour series? Yes, kind of had that expectation going into it. Like I said to you at the start, wasn't really putting much stock in the Legends and Lattes comparison because that is kind of used for any cozy fantasy, I feel like. So I wasn't that bothered about that. So I did feel like it was going to be more like this series, but I can hand on heart say I prefer this series. And this series, I don't even want to own all the books. I've got the one, happy with that, happy to have the rest on my Kindle. This, I thought, okay, maybe it'll be the same thing where I own the first book, read the rest on Kindle and stuff. I don't even want to do that. I don't even want to continue with it because there's nothing wrong with the character. Like, Saphira's a lovely character. She's very bubbly, happy and playful and stuff, and she's very quick to forgive people. She's quick to get over things because she's like, life's too short to be annoyed at people and stuff. So like, a lot of her as a character I don't mind, but when she then is talking to others, oh, it grates on my gears how childish she becomes. Like, just the wording of it all, it doesn't feel believable. It feels like this is something I would hear in a school ground. This is not something I would expect to hear from adults. Like, you can be adults and still have fun and still be carefree and not feeling old and stuff. Not that 25 is old, by the way, but whatever. But the language you use is still slightly different, whereas this is very juvenile language that's used, and that's what annoys me. Wow, I really did rant about that one. I didn't mean to. I really didn't mean to, because I think it's more just I'm disappointed. I really wanted to like this one, and I wasn't going in expecting this to be a new favourite, expecting the best writing. I really wasn't expecting any of that, but I'm just disappointed with how much I'm not enjoying this. So that's not the best start, but we've got another day before Watermoon is due out. Oh, it's such a shame, but there's no point me forcing myself for a book that I'm really not enjoying. Like, I would rather just put it down and just be like, it's just not working for me. But I would say give it a try. Maybe like if you can get it from the library or something, or if it's like £2 on Kindle, yeah, or something like that, then yeah, feel free to give it a try. It's just, yeah, just go in knowing that it comes across a little bit younger in terms of the characters. But honestly, I don't think that's going to bother a lot of people. I think if you liked Phoenix Keeper, I have that, it's in a pile and I really can't bother to get it out. It's in my unhaul pile. I think if you liked Phoenix Keeper, then you'll probably like the Baby Dragon Cafe because it's got that similar tone to the writing style. So it's kind of like a cross between Phoenix Keeper and then the Dream Harbour series. So if you like the sound of that, give this book a try. My problem is, as much as I like the Dream Harbour series, I did not enjoy Phoenix Keeper, and I didn't enjoy it because of the tone. So unfortunately, that's That is the game changer for me. Like, if I'm not getting on with the tone, voice of a book, the dialogue between characters and stuff, unfortunately, I cannot get through it and I will just get annoyed. So not a great update, but hopefully the next update, I would like to try and do about 100 pages getting into a book, because it gives me a feel for the book and I can give you a bit more, yeah, just give you a bit more on it, a bit more of a review on it. So hopefully the next update will be me 100 pages into Watermoon and absolutely loving it. That is the hope. We'll see if it happens. Oh gosh. Never mind, it's fine. These things happen. But yeah, okay, right, I'm going to update another video. I've got so many things going on at the minute, so I'm just gonna quickly do that. Read a really good chunk of Watermoon and I'm really enjoying this book so freaking much. So I'm now up to chapter 22, page 137, and yeah, okay, it's really good. I'm just really enjoying this. This is pretty much a Studio Ghibli movie but in book format. It is so well done. I'm getting all the vibes that I get from a Studio Ghibli film and it's just so well done. I really like it. So we've got two main characters. Our main character, the first main character we meet is Hana, and Hana working in this pawn shop for her father. However, he is retiring, and so she is going to be taking over the pawn shop the very next day. And this pawn shop, as we know, is a bit unique. It doesn't trade in jewelry and things. Instead, it trades in regrets. So most people will never be able to access this pawn shop. Instead, they will just go to a ramen restaurant. But those select few that really need help will end up, where they open the door to this ramen restaurant, end up in the pawn shop instead. I really like it. You do get to see one instance of somebody coming in. After that instance, everything changes and I really like it. So we have Hana that goes on a mission to find her father, which is it's lovely. It's a lovely tale of her trying to find him. You get snippets of her childhood and things, him setting out loads of puzzles for her, and it's a kind of almost like a preparation for this event that's happening. Pawn shop kind of exists in this in-between place. It's not fully in our world, but it's kind of in this, I'm gonna say, dream-like world. It gives off very much dream qualities. But just as she's about to set off on this adventure, we get the second main character that comes in, and his name is, I'm probably mispronouncing, but I think it's Kaishin, and he is somebody that's come over back to Tokyo. So when he was 8 years old, he left Tokyo, he's become a scientist, he ends up coming back to Tokyo, going to this ramen restaurant, ends up in the pawn shop instead, and he's like, hey, you seem to be in a bit of trouble at the minute, I'm gonna help you. And it doesn't matter how many times Hana says no, he's like, no, I'm gonna help you, and ends up going off on this journey as well. And I really like it. I actually really like their interactions together. I like the way Kaishin sees the world. It's just beautiful. Like, it's so well done, and the dream world that they kind of end up in is so interesting. Like, they can jump through puddles to different almost like worlds and things, and it's so unusual. You do have some tension going along. We're not just trying to find Hunter's father, but there's also something where these like almost like nightmarish creatures coming after Hunter as well, because these are the creatures that come in and collect the regrets every, I think it's full moon, one of the moon cycles. They come in and take them. Now if one is missing, or if just in general in this dreamlike world people do not fulfill their job, they will kind of evict you, in a sense killing you. And so Hunter is terrified of these creatures, and they're trying to outrun them as well as find her father, and it's just so interesting. There's so many layers to it in a way. It's just so the writing is gorgeous. You can really imagine the world. I really do feel like I'm in a Studio Ghibli film. This is definitely one for the readers that love Studio Ghibli, because it's just so good. It's so well done. This is the first book that's been translated into English by this author, but they have done other works, so I'd be really intrigued to pick up their other works as well if it ever does get translated, because it's really good. I'd really recommend, if you're after just a cozy fantasy in general, I think this is really good for it. I really like this kind of dreamlike world, but how we also have the nightmare aspects, how everything's not wonderful and amazing. I mean, it's brilliant. I love the way that the way they do things is so different, the way that you just travel is so different, and all of these things, like, it's so well done. It just works, but also you've got those darker undercurrents running through it, which I really like. Like I say, I love our two characters. I love how they interact with one another. It's so well done. This is really good. This is what I want from my cozy books, so I'm really pleased that this one is delivering so well. I did end up picking it up on Kindle. I kind of do want a physical copy of this book because, one, it's beautiful. I know this is one I'm going to recommend so many times, but the actual hardcover edition of this book, gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. So I kind of wish I had got a hard copy. However, I know that actually me reading this book is so much easier for me to read as ebook because I have more time in a way for ebook. So I was thinking about this, slight tangent, but thinking about this. So I'm mainly a physical or ebook reader, but I find that physical books I tend to only read when I'm at home, which is lovely, but I'm obviously, I mean, I work full time, so I am out a lot more on the travel to job, and like if I'm doing something on my days off and things, I'll bring my Kindle with me because it's so much easier to bring with me. So I find that reading on Kindle is just easier to pick up and go, and so I will end up reading a Kindle book much quicker than a physical book. At least that's how it feels, but also it allows me for things like these videos, if the books don't get onto my TBR for the month, it allows me to read these alongside my TBR books as well, so I've still got something to talk about in the weekly reading vlogs I do. Anyway, that was a weird tangent, but yeah, so I'm really liking this. I think it is really good. It's what I needed after the disappointment of the Baby Dragon Cafe. I needed this book to just kind of like not make me feel like, oh, a cozy book's not for me. Am I hitting that point of not enjoying them? Got burnt out of genres in the past. Like fantasy, I used to be a massive just pure fantasy reader, which is just not the case anymore, and I did get really burnt out and needed a break. And so I'm always a little bit wary of, if I end up reading too much of the same type of book, same genre, I can get burnt out. And I was a bit worried, like, oh, is that starting to happen? Because honestly, the last couple of these videos, I've had like one book be great and then I've had things just not be great. So like November's one, I only had 2 books to read for that video. One I liked, one I really didn't like. In the last one for December, I mean, that was a mess of a video in and of itself, just struggling to find things that worked. And then the one book that I found that was a new release, it was okay, but nothing that I would be like, oh, I'm going to talk about this book all the time, because it was just okay. And then with the Baby Dragon Cafe and that being a DNF, I was like, oh no, have I reached that point where, I mean, I've been doing this for like 6 months now, have I reached that point of I've read too many and I need a break? And thankfully Water Moon is showing that that's not the case. It's absolutely fine. I do still absolutely love this genre, like subgenre of books, and it's great. It's just unfortunate that the last couple of months I've just had books that don't really work with my tastes, but I'm really enjoying this one. It's so wonderful. I'm looking forward to reading more. This is my at work on lunch break books, which is perfect. I'm really loving this. I mean, it's not a massively long book, so I don't have long left to go in this book. 36% of the way through this book. So I don't think this is going to take me too long to read. And then the next book I'm reading, I think I mentioned this at the start, is not coming out until the beginning of February. So I'll probably have a week between finishing this book and starting the next book, which is great because I can slip in a book for another video that is going on in the background of my weekly reading vlogs, because we have all the vlogs going on at the minute. But yeah, this is really good, and it just makes me feel so much happier about that. Yes, I do still love cozy books. There are still some fantastic new releases out there. I mean, Watermoon has got quite a bit of hype, I won't lie. It's been mentioned quite a few times in different people's anticipated releases videos and things like this, but for a really good reason. Like, this is really well done. I think the writing is brilliant. I'm really enjoying this book. I really like the characters, I like the world, I like the plot line to this. Like, there is nothing so far that I can complain about this book. Like, genuinely, it is exactly what I want from this sort of cozy fantasy book. Really happy, really recommend it so far. I will check back in with you at some point when I've read some more, but I really don't think I'm gonna have anything bad to say about it. I don't really know where the plot line's gonna go. I don't know what to expect, but I think we're gonna be in for definitely some trials, hardships that we're gonna have to overcome. Nothing too much because it is a cozy book, but there will be some, so I'm looking forward to seeing how that all progresses. And yeah, even Studio Ghibli, I forgot to mention, like I say, this is a really good book for fans of Studio Ghibli. It is actually mentioned a couple of times, like just little things like the cat bus was mentioned, and just little snippets of it, but it really does feel like a Studio Ghibli book, which it makes me want to watch the films now. I'm just really in the mood for it. This book is just perfect, absolutely perfect. Honestly, if I had waited to do my Studio Ghibli book recommendations video, this would be mentioned first because it is perfect for it. I think it is so well done. Like, there is another book that's been translated from Japanese which is always talked about as a good Studio Ghibli book, and I would say yes, that is the case, but I don't like aspects of that book because there's like bullying and things in it which I didn't really like at all, and I think that was Lonely Castle in the Mirror. And it's still a really good book. It's just, for me, I don't like reading books that have got big focus on bullying in it, which that book had a lot. So I would say Watermoon, for me, is the perfect Studio Ghibli book. Highly recommend. Okay, I'm gonna stop waffling on now, do some food. We'll catch up soon. But yeah, this was a delight to read today. Like, it was absolutely perfect. And I've been a bit more tired because I'm on my early shifts, and it's just worked perfectly. Because as much as the world building is beautiful, and it's kind of almost like lyrical in a way, the writing, like, it is just so lovely. It's also not hard to read. Like, I'm not having to concentrate really hard on this book. It's just such easy, beautiful writing. Oh, I think, to be fair, this has a chance of being on my top books of the year, and I love it when that happens so early in the year. How wonderfully magical this book is. Anyway, right, I'm gonna stop waffling on at you now. I know I said that already. We know I say that a lot in these videos. A lot of you say you like the tired rambles, so thank you. But right, anyway, yes. Watermoon, and this very much was a magical, wonderful, extremely imaginative book. It very much is a book for fans of Studio Ghibli. It really did give me those vibes. It was so well done in that way, and I really loved just the way the magic worked in this. Like, it was so unexpected. Nothing was how it seemed. It was just wonderful, absolutely wonderful. I really enjoyed it. Very easy to read. You do have a lot of like flashback bits where you're seeing moments in the past that are kind of connected to what's going on, but just kind of give you a bit more explanation about what is happening, because you see a lot of moments where we're seeing memories of things, which I did like. This was just a tale of these two people trying to find Hana's father that are going off on this journey. Every time they get into a destination, they're then told a little bit more information, and then they've got to go off and talk to this other person or go to this location. Along the way they travel is completely different each time, which I really thought was so interesting. Like, again, the imagination that went into this book is unreal, and I liked that. Now, it can get a little bit repetitive in that you're getting somewhere, you're getting this piece of information, you're then having to move on. Like, it's a traveling story, which I know isn't for everyone, but I thought it worked really well. And again, it just reminded me so much of Studio Ghibli films. Genuinely really liked it. I just thought it was so well done. So yeah, I don't really have anything negative to say about this book. I did really like it. It is one that I would recommend if you're after a cozy fantasy book, if you're after a book that gives you Studio Ghibli vibe. This is definitely the book for it. I like the way it ended. I think it worked really well for the story. I feel like parts of me wanted a little bit more, but also it wasn't bad in any way either, and I don't really know what I would have wanted from it. I think it was just a good book. I can see a lot of people really liking this one. Maybe some negative reviews in the fact that things were overcome really easily, that it's not like there's really high stakes, but that is a staple of cozy fantasy. You're going into this for the low stakes. You're not going into it for something to be really high action stuff. Like, there are moments of tension, there are moments of fast pace, like things are happening, they're having to run away from things, like they're constantly having to run away, and so you do get those instances. But overall, the overall tone of the book is of this whimsy, and it's so kind of cute like that. There are moments where you've got this romance developing, a bit repetitive, and back and forth of, oh, we shouldn't be together, oh, this isn't going to work, this isn't real, things like this. It's a bit back and forth like that, but again, it didn't really bother me in any way. So like, yeah, generally this is exactly what I wanted from this book, and it delivered it really well. So yeah, my recommendation stands. If you like Studio Ghibli, give this book a try. I think it works really, really well for that, or you just want a cozy fantasy low stake in this very imaginative, whimsical world. Again, give it a try. There is like a darker what's actually going on underneath it, which I thought was really interesting. But again, it's not too dark because it's in keeping with the cozy vibes of this. So it's not dark, but it is kind of dark. When you really like take a minute to think about it, it is kind of dark, but also it's not. I don't know if that makes any sense, but like the vibe of it and that doesn't feel like it's really dark, but there is a bit more depth to what's going on, which I found really interesting. But yeah, I just think overall really enjoyed this book, so I'm very pleased with this. I don't have loads more to say. It's not a brand new favorite, but it is one that I can definitely see myself recommending to others. It's one that fits the bill for cozy fantasy really well. It really is just a magical time, and I would read more from this author. Gave me everything I wanted, and I don't know, what really sold it for me is the imagination in this one. And I know I keep using that word, but it really is. It was so interesting, and I just love all the different magical, wonderful elements to it, and just the way things worked. And like, they have like this market where it's like a night market, and you could almost see it as like a goblin market from something like Christina Rossetti's poem, but instead of it, some parts of it are a little bit darker, and the things that they're wanting to trade for. Overall, it's just like, there was this one particular stall, like, none of this is spoilers, I'm keeping it spoiler free, but like, there was this one particular stall that was just for all of the things, you know, when you'll just find things just go missing, so like the lost socks, pens and stuff which you've put down which you can never find again, or things like this. And it was a stall that sold all of those, just those little bits of just cozy whimsy in the book that just really, really work. Really liked that market actually. I thought that was really interesting, and it could be explored so much more with the different stalls, what they're selling, what you get in trade for them. There's this museum that you go to which is so interesting. Like, there are so many interesting parts to this book. What it was so interesting, and I feel like you could have really explored each of that really well. As it is, you got these snapshots because they're having to go to these different destinations and inevitably end up having to run away. I don't know, I thought it worked really well, like just seeing these little parts of this world and how it all worked. It was just so interesting. That's my favorite part of it. Not so much the storyline of Hana trying to find her father or the romance, but it was the world that I was immersed in. That I loved. That I could easily just read more books on that, because I just thought it was so good. It was just so, it felt unique. Like, yes, a Studio Ghibli thing, but it also felt very unique in some ways. So yeah, yeah, that was my favourite bit about this book. And I think if I was more invested in the plot line and the romance of it, I feel like this would then be an ultimate new favourite, but I wasn't as interested in those parts. I was mainly there for the world. That's that book. That was great. I'm glad, because we've had the DNF. Now this is sitting at first place. Loved it, thought it was really, really good. Now we have the third book, but it's not actually out yet. So we are on the 22nd of January, I want to say, and that book's not out till the 5th of February. Let me check my date. Okay, no, we're on the 24th of January. Way out. Okay, not way out, 2 days out, like, let's be serious. And then the book that I'm going to be reading on the 5th of February. Got a bit of time, which is great because that gives me time to do a Battle of the Booktuber ebook instead. I will not be checking back in for this video for a little while. That works out really well actually, because it can give me a chance where I can move on to another vlog. So that's good. But I really wanted to add in, as we know, the Stormborn Vine, just to have something else. And I do think this is going to be really good. I really like this cover. I think it's really cool. That is really nice. I like Venus flytrap things that are going on and the little dragons and everything. I'm really intrigued to see how I'm going to feel about this book. But okay, right, that's it. I will check back in with you when I start the Stormborn Vine in a few weeks' time. Two weeks' time. And check in with you then. This was really good. I'm very, very happy. But I've got loads of videos to update, so I've got to stop waffling. But yeah. Oh, that was one thing I wanted to say. I think it's just the Kindle version, and there are a lot of chapter breaks with it. So you'll get the chapter, and then inside each chapter you get chapter breaks where they're like changing location or time has slightly jumped forward a little bit. And sometimes when I changed page, we would be in that jump, but I think that's just the Kindle format of it. And I think in a book it would have been easier to see the actual chapter breaks across the page, maybe, I'm not sure. But that was one thing I just noticed, that you do get those little time where it's almost like cut out, so you have like a little bit of movement. A few days later, probably not days, like a few hours later, you've jumped from one place to another place. And you know, some bits of it were noticeable enough it took me out of the story a little bit, but it wasn't to the point where I didn't want to carry on reading it or found it too detrimental to the experience. So I just thought I'll quickly mention that. But otherwise, yeah, I really liked this. As I said, for me it was the world that really captured my attention, so wonderful. But yeah, okay, right, I've got a bunch of other filming bits to do, so I'll get on and do that, and I'll see you in a little while. It feels like it's been absolutely ages since I've done an update for this video, but I am halfway, well, almost halfway through Stormborn Vine. I am up to chapter 13, page 124, and I'm really liking it. I think it's really cute and fun. This is a really short book anyway, so it's been really easy to fly through. I am enjoying this a lot more than what I thought, actually. I don't know, I feel like my expectations were there for it, but I've made some connections to the book that I wasn't expecting to make, and I just think it works really well. Like, I'm really pleased with this one. So we are following Fern, and Fern is somebody that is kind of looked down on in society. She went to London for her debut, think like Bridgerton-esque, and it didn't go well. We don't know the ins and outs of what happened, but clearly in the last season when she went to London, things didn't go well. So she is seen as kind of like this disgraced lady, but she's embraced herself as a botanist, kind of enjoys the freedom that not being confined by society's rules gives her. Like, she's able to wear trousers and things because it's easier for her to work in. Lives with her uncle and his husband, and she enjoys her life and her garden and, you know, the different exotic plants that she looks over. And in that first bit, that's what we're seeing. We're getting to know the characters, we're getting to know her uncle and his husband, like they're a lovely couple. We're getting to know their maidservant that lives with them that kind of does everything, but she clearly has a very prominent place in the family. It's seen as family orientated, not just a servant. And then Fern herself and the work that she does, the fact that she doesn't have her parents and the fact that she's still dealing with that loss. But then one day she gets this letter and it's requesting her to come to this estate for this lord. There's something going wrong with his plants and things, and he really wants everything to be ready and perfect by the time this party ball thing is going on. So she's like, okay, cool, it will give us some money, I will go. And then that's when everything goes from there. Like, there's a storm and it sets off this series of events. We do see her dealing with her difficult situation, the fact that she is in this situation of no longer being a part of high society, but also not low as like the working class, and how that weird rift and how it's treating her, how she can't eat meals with the servants but she can't eat at the table with everybody else, so she has to take it in her room. The fact that she does wear trousers and she's like, okay, but do you want me to dress like a lady or shall I do what I'm here to do, which is work? And it's just that weird thing that she sits on like the outside of everything, way she has to then deal with things. I really like this. I also love the fact that there are dragons in this, and the fact that we are questioning the age of science and industrialism is pushing out magic and dragons. And there are these 3 witches. I will say that bit was overdone a little bit, where the comparison was made to the Macbeth witches a lot. Like, considering it was in such a short amount of time, it was done a bit too much in my opinion. I think once would have been more than enough, but that's like the only complaint I've had. So I'm really enjoying this. So she's talking with the witches about the fact that magic is disappearing, and she then starts thinking about what is causing this or potentially causing this, and then she gets called away and stuff. But I'm really curious to see where this is all gonna go and how the magic and everything that's gonna tie into it, because it really does feel almost like, in a way, a bit like Lady Trent series. So the Lady Trent series by Marie Brennan is a series that I absolutely love. It is kind of like light academia fantasy where we've got the historical setting in a world with dragons. Kind of similar in a way. I do think Lady Trent is better. We get the more academic side of it, whereas this kind of feels almost like, weirdly, Veronica Speedwell but in Lady Trent, if that makes any sense. Because in Veronica Speedwell series, you do have Veronica being a Lepidoporus. You do get that slightly scientific side of things. Feels kind of similar. The lightness of that science is the same as in the Stormborn Vine, where we have Fern, who is a botanist. As she talks a lot about different plants, gives them their proper names and things, and I feel like it's kind of similar to the references that Veronica would make about butterflies. And then of course we have the dragons being added in, and I'm really curious to see how it's all going to tie together. I think it works really well. Honestly, this is a book that has all the different elements of something that I would really like in a book, because it does have slight academia elements in a historical fantasy setting with dragons, and there is a mystery. I mean, it's not a murder mystery like the Veronica Speedwell series, but there is a mystery to be solved about that relationship between dragons and magic and these particular trees. I think it's really interesting. I was thinking to myself, like, okay, based on the fact that I'm at like 43%, where would I rank this in terms of like this one compared to Watermoon? In all honesty, I would say Watermoon is probably the cozier book out of the two, but in terms of my personal enjoyment, I actually am preferring Stormborn Vine. I think because it has all the things I like. So a lot of my favourite books, things like The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter, Emily's Wild Encyclopedia of Fairies, Veronica Speedwell series, the Lady Trent series, like they've all got that more light academic feeling to it. I mean, The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter, that one's darker. It has those academic elements, really strong-willed women that don't quite fit into whatever role that society's deemed them in, and then a mystery that they're looking into. So each one, then again, not murder mysteries, but just like an element, a plot of something that they have to look into and they get caught up in. And so Stormborn Vine's really fitting into all of those. Like I say, I don't think it's as good as the other ones I've just mentioned, but I think if you're wanting a book that scratches that kind of gives you those vibes, but make it about botany, and we've just got like a little touch of dragons thrown in, then I would say give this one a try. I really like it. And so for that, at this moment in time, I would say it's doing better for me than Watermoon. For something that I want to continue on, because this is actually, I think it's just a duology. I know there's definitely a second book. I'm not sure if that one's out, whether they came out both at the same time. I don't know. I just saw it on Kindle being recommended to me, but I don't know if that was a pre-order one. But there is definitely a second book, and I'm really intrigued to see where it would go. So I would happily read that second book. And if it carries on the way it's going with all the vibes and elements of this book, then yes, this is definitely something I would eventually reread or like recommend to those that are in want of something like the books that I've mentioned, but maybe just don't take quite as much focus, because I do think this is a book you don't need to concentrate too heavily on. There are some conveniences of plot and things like this. Like I say, it's not like it's the best of them by any means, but it's also one that gives me those same elements, just make it really easy to read, really cozy, really not high stake in any way, and just a chill time. I'm not going into it being overly critical, because there are things that you could definitely pull apart about this book. That's not the reason why I'm reading it. I'm reading it for enjoyment, and it is giving me all the enjoyment because of all the elements that I've already said that I really appreciate in other books, and that's why they end up being some of my favorites and my go-to recommendations, because genuinely I love that. I need to at some point just do a video on this sort of thing. I have so many books that I enjoy. Like if we want to go darker, then things like Stalking Jack the Ripper, Anatomy a Love Story, and like I mentioned, A Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter, they've got those similar academic things but make it darker. And then you've got the lighter end of it with like A Letter to the Luminous Deep and Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies and all of this sort of stuff. So I think this book, Stormborn Vine, fits in with that lighter side of it really well. And then I feel like Veronica Speedwell kind of straddles both, because you get the murder mystery of those darker ones, but you do get the lightness and like the feeling like nothing's too dangerous from the other books. So I feel like Veronica's a good mesh between the two. So if you like the sound of any of those books that I mentioned and you want to give something quick and easy a try, give it a read. It's, like I say, it is not the strongest. I do think all the ones I've mentioned do it better, but it still has all those same elements, so I'm enjoying it for that. So that's really good. I don't think this is going to take me long to finish, and this will be the last book of this vlog, which is good because this video is due out soon and I need to get a wiggle on in terms of editing and things. I haven't even started doing that yet, but it's fine. Okay, I'm really enjoying this. This was really good, and I think I have waffled on about it long enough. So I'm going to go. Next time I pop in will be to finish out this book, and then we'll do the official ranking. I mean, we already know Baby Dragon Cafe's at the bottom because it ended up being a DNF. I'm really pleased because these other two books have been really good and been exactly what I want for these sort of videos, so that is perfect. And actually I do know a lot of people have really been enjoying the Baby Dragon Cafe. A lot of people really liked this and thought it was really cute and sweet and everything, so I'm really glad people are enjoying it. So I definitely think it's just more of a me thing, and I think it's just because of that. As I've already mentioned, the juvenile language, it bothers me when I'm in an adult romance. Being beside the point, I'm going to go out and finish this book because I'm really, really enjoying this, and this is such an easy read. Stormborn Vine, and you know what, I liked it. I feel like the ending wasn't anywhere near as strong as it could have been. I already mentioned how there was like repetition with the witches being compared to the Macbeth witches. That continued, and I just feel like, look, once is more than enough, and then it's a bit overkill. So that definitely did continue on in the story, that I feel like we could have done different things and different comparisons, and I feel like just bits of the writing here and there could have been a little bit tighter and edited. That doesn't really bother me, like that was fine. The thing that I wish is that this book was maybe just an extra 100 pages long to give the ending the room to breathe it needed, because there were like 3 main things that happened with the plotline of this book, and I feel like because we were focused on 3 different things, we didn't really get a satisfying resolution to any of them. I would have loved a bit more exploration into the dragons. I would have loved a bit more of a look into these particular trees that may be connected to these dragons that I feel like didn't really get explored in this book, and I feel like that was a whole plot line that just kind of petered out towards the end. And then we have this other plot line to do with the vine and the origami dragon, and again I feel like that was a bit more of an action-paced ending. I'm not going to say more, I'm keeping it vague for obviously spoilers and things. Again, I just feel like that could have been fleshed out that a little bit more, plus there was a lot of repetitions about what is the value of a life, can we really put a value on life, who gets to determine what means more, is there that sort of scale and things. And while I did like it, I feel like it was pretty surface level because it was the same points repeated in the same way. So I feel like we could have explored it a little bit more, a little bit deeper, and just gone into it. Then the final one, we then started looking into women, how women are treated in this society, and like Fern does this whole like monologue on women and how they're treated by men and stuff, and I do like it, but again it just feels like it was too much. We needed to strip back one of those plot lines, I think, and then you could have given the other 2 more room to breathe and then explore the next plot line in the next book. Also still fleshed it out. I still think we needed the book to be that tiny bit longer so that we could explore those different themes a little bit more deeply. So there is a second book. This is being published in August. I may pick it up, I may continue. It's following a completely different series of events, so I don't know if we're going to have any crossover from the first book with some of those elements and plot lines that I feel like needed to be better wrapped up. And hopefully in the second book we do get those, and we do get the exploration into especially one of those plot lines that I just feel like we did not get to explore fully. I feel like that would be really good if we actually did, and maybe it'll be in the background again and we'll have another like thing where Fern's got to deal with it, which I know is going to be happening. Like, it's going to be another botanical thing that Fern's going to have to deal with, and then hopefully it also looks into this third plot line and continues with that. I don't know whether we're going to get it though, so we'll see. I probably will end up picking it up and giving it a try at some point, but it's not going to be high priority unless of course I don't have many books to read in August for Cozy New Releases, and then that is one that I know I can pick up and hopefully like. We all know, like, I was loving this book. Like, yes, I said repeatedly this wasn't as strong as some of the other books that I compared it to, but I enjoyed it because it was giving me those vibes, and that is still true. I just think the ending really needed just a bit more time with it to flesh it out, and I feel like the author kind of ran out of words, or like word space I should say, and like had in mind to keep it a particular length, and so kind of had to wrap it all up, and it just didn't quite work. Because honestly, when I finished it, I was a bit like, oh, okay, that was not what I was expecting a little bit more, but we just never really quite got it. I mean, there was a lot of conveniences and things. Again, that doesn't bother me. That is actually really common in cozy light fantasy books, is having plot conveniences, because again, these are low stakes, so that's absolutely fine. So none of that bothered me. It was just, I feel like the ending needed, even if it was just 50 pages more, would have been helpful to help flesh out some of that. It still wouldn't have wrapped up everything, but it would have wrapped up a couple of things just a little bit nicer and tidier for me personally. But I still did enjoy this one, and again, I would still recommend it to other people that do like all the books that I listed in the previous update, because it does give you those vibes. And while yes, it really isn't as strong as some of the others, I still really did enjoy it, and I do like this concept. That being said, I'm really stuck for what's first place. Like, we know last place is going to be the Baby Dragon Cafe because I did DNF this book, and you know what is frustrating, because I still think about this book. I still think to myself, oh, it would be so cute to finish and stuff, and then I go to look into some of the dialogue and I'm like, I can't, you're just too juvenile. And while I have nothing wrong with a book copying a formula that's already been done well, like Dream Harbour series, and having it with dragons instead, like that really doesn't faze me. If something's doing well and it works, go for it. Just felt too young for this. It felt like it couldn't decide whether it was a young adult romance or an adult romance, and I feel like the language between the characters is young adult romance, and then the other things that were happening were adult romance, and I'm just like, you just don't feel like you're quite knowing where you want to be just yet. So it has all the potential, and I know I'm actually in the minority here, because a few people I know that have read this book have actually enjoyed this one, which is amazing, and I love that. So I would definitely say still give it a try, because again, juvenile writing, like, that's very subjective to the individual, and I know a lot of people will actually really like the writing style of this and the conversation between characters. It just didn't really work for me, which is disappointing, but it happens. So this is definitely in last place, but I really don't know what to put in first and second. I feel like I should put Watermoon in first place, because Watermoon really was so well done, and it really is the perfect embodiment of a Studio Ghibli film. I think it had all the right elements to it. It had the traveling story, it had the different things that they had to overcome. Really, really worked well for that sort of thing. So I think for that, it should just be in first place, because it really was very well done. It was a very entertaining, cozy fantasy read. Just worked. It just worked. Studio Ghibli. That's all I'm going to keep saying about it, because it really is a Studio Ghibli but in book format. Like, it was so well done. It was so imaginative, so dreamy descriptiveness. Like, it just worked so well. So I do think that deserves to be in first place. I really wanted the Stormborn Vine to be in first place, because again, all those elements that I genuinely love in book, you know, it being a reoccurring thing that I do generally just gravitate towards. Unfortunately, that latter half of the book, it just didn't quite live up to it. So again, still to the point where I would still reread. Well, I don't think I would reread it, but I would continue with the series. The Stormborn Vine should be in second place, and I think Watermoon deserves first place, because it was so well done, and it really is the book that out of the three, that is the one I'm going to recommend the most to people if they're after a cozy, adventure-y fantasy story that it really is just like a dreamscape. It was so well done. So I think first place, will go to Watermoon. So yeah, I really enjoyed this cozy reading vlog. Episode 7 of these cozy new releases. I can't believe I've been doing this for 7 months now, but it was a bit of a shame that we still had one DNF, but this was a much better reading experience than the last couple that I've had, so I'm really happy with that, and I have really high hopes for the next one, which I'm literally just about to start, because the first book I'm reading for next month's cozy new releases has just been published. So I'm really excited to start the video for that one and get into the 3 books that we've got coming up for February that you'll be getting in March. But yeah, I think this batch of cozy new releases was done really well, and I think we've definitely got a few months coming up of just some really solid gems. So I'm really, really excited. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please let me know if you would read any of these books now, and if you have read any of them. I know Watermoon especially has been getting the most love, and there are so many people that have been reading it and buying it and things, so do let me know if you've read that one and what you thought of it. Baby Dragon Cafe, I would say, is probably like the next popular book, and then Stormborn Vine I've not heard anyone talking about, so you'll have to let me know if you're interested in picking up any of these, if you have picked them up and what you thought. But for now, I'm gonna leave it there. So thank you so much for watching. I think if you've made it this far, then let's put I'm gonna say a ship emoji in the comments below for Watermoon. And thank you so much for watching, and an extra special thank you to all of my Patreons who have been supporting me, and I'm genuinely still in shock about people wanting to support me over Patreon, and just, it's been absolutely lovely. So thank you so much to my Patreons for all of your support, and all of you that take the time to watch these videos, whether you comment and interact in any way. Like, I really appreciate everyone that takes the time to watch these videos. But my social media links, anyone I've mentioned, and my Patreon will all be linked below for you, and I will catch you in the very next video.